Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to DTM back in the UK here at Brands Hatch. We are racing on the GP circuit. When last the DTM was at Brands Hatch, of course, we used the smaller Indy circuit. But now the cars and the drivers get to stretch their legs on the 3.9 kilometer GP circuit. This circuit, of course, opened in the 1950s. 9 turns, 6 of them right-handers, 3 of them left-handers. And the DTM comes to Brands Hatch in very rude health, and particular rude health for Great Britain, given we have Gary Paffett, P1 in the points, and P2 in the points is one Mr. Paul di Resta. And the sun is beating down and shining beautifully on this circuit with a good number of people here to enjoy the DTM race action. We are thrilled for the 55-minute plus 1 lap race to come this afternoon. You can see just how packed the grid is with people that have crammed into Brands Hatch to enjoy the DTM race action. The most winning driver at Brands Hatch in the DTM history is Paul di Resta, having taken 2 wins here. Well, Paul di Resta's qualifying means that he'll be starting from further back down the grid than he would like on the 6th row of the grid. It is race 11 of 20. And with the place looking resplendent, there is one Mr. Damon Hill, who is here as one of our guests. René Rast is with Verena now.
Yes, hello everyone. Yeah, it's fantastic being here in Brands Hatch. However, Damon Hill, we just saw him. He had a little quick talk with René Rast, and now he is off because he's got a busy schedule. But I'm here with René Rast. And René, you're starting in P3 today. That means you've got to put a lot of pressure on these 2 stars. How are you going to do that? What does the strategy entail? And most importantly, what is it like on the GP circuit?
Yeah, the GP circuit is one of the best circuits, I would say. It's still a real man circuit. Obviously, strategy is important today. I'm not sure if we can handle the same like in Zandvoort. Not sure if lap 1 or very early is the right strategy. Depends also a little bit when they stop. So we base our strategy on the cars around us. So let's see. Obviously, I think we have a pace to fight for the podium. But let's see.
All right, best of luck, René. Thank you so much, and back to you.
Thanks so much, Verena. Reed Dan here, doing a great job as always as we look at our pole sitter, Daniel Juncadella. The Spanish driver then that will be going from P1 on the grid. His qualifying time, the 1:18.0 was sufficient to put the Spaniard pole position. And his best result in the season so far, of course, was in the 2nd race at Norris Ring when he podiumed and took a P3. Well, he certainly did a good job in qualifying today. He is going from P1 on the grid. Alongside him, another Mercedes-Benz driver. It's the Lucas Auer car number 22. Lucas Auer then, who was definitely in the hunt for the championship last year, but is down there P6 in the points at the moment. But Lucas Auer, who's taken a couple of P2s and a P3, he will be hoping for good things from the front row of the grid. This is Bruno Spengler, who truthfully has got an awful lot of work to do from the very back of the grid. His qualifying time, a 1:19.385. As you can see, he is right at the back of the grid. The British star, though, that leads the Drivers' Championship is Gary Paffett.
And now I'm here with Gary Paffett. At the moment, you're leading the championship, and it's all looking really good. However, in the qualifying, you're starting P6, and you had a pretty heavy impact. So first question is, how is the car, and what's the strategy for the race?
Car's okay. Car's good. I mean, it was on the tyre barrier, and lucky enough it was side-on, so I think suspension-wise, everything were okay. A bit of bodywork damage, but the guys have patched it up as best they can, and I think we're ready to go. And I mean, the pace was still there in the 2nd run, so yeah, I think the car's okay. Obviously, a bit of a silly mistake from myself, but when you're pushing to the limit, things like that happen, and we got away with it. The qualifying was okay. P6 is actually okay. I mean, round here we knew it was going to be a big test. Obviously, 2 Mercedes at the front shows the paces in the car, and without the off, maybe I could have been closer, but pretty happy with where I am. Yeah, the guys I'm fighting with the championship are all behind me at the moment, so yeah, we have to see what we can do. I think we've got a good car, and we just have to watch out. The strategy is going to be tough. There's a high chance of a safety car, things like that. It's going to be tough on the tyres, so a lot of work to do still, but we're close to the front, which at least is good.
Absolutely. I'll leave you to it because I think you're going to eat the banana now, right? So best of luck for the race, Gary.
Thank you. Thanks.
Back to you.
Thanks very much. So Gary about to go about his fruit then ahead of the start of the race. Of course, all of Gary's family here to enjoy the race action as well, a real local race. And Nico Muller taking on some refreshing water now across his shoulders as we meet Mr. Damon Hill.
Yes, we're very excited to have the champion of 1996 in Formula One with us, Damon Hill. He's just still talking to DTM boss Gerhard Berger, but I'm going to try to kindly butt in quickly to ask him a question because, of course, we're excited that he's here. Hello, Damon Hill. We're very excited to have you here. We're back. Yes, finally I got you. I know you're a very busy man here in Brands Hatch. First of all, of course, what brings you here? And second of all, what do you think of the DTM being back in Brands Hatch, finally?
Well, I think it's great it's come back, and I think it's great that we got the weather for it, and we've got some British drivers at the front of the championship. So, and I'm also coming here because Gerhard, you know, he's an old friend of mine, and we used to race against, and I race against each other, but I love what he's doing with DTM. I like what he's saying about the sport and how we need to do the right thing for the fans. You know, we need to provide the fans with motor racing, you know, in the way that people expect it to be. You know, fast cars, powerful cars, noisy cars, great drivers, great tracks, and make a good show.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to the race. I'm sure you are as well. Enjoy it. Thank you very much, Damon Hill. And back to you.
Goodness me, doesn't that man talk sense? Absolutely spot on. Damon Hill then, a guest here at the DTM this weekend. As we look at Marco Wittmann, the two-time DTM champion then, going from P9 on the grid. So Marco Wittmann in the BMW as he puts his balaclava on and gets suited and booted, ready for this 55-minute plus one lap race, which is about to get underway. As Damon has indicated, in the sunshine as we look at Edo Mortara now, who has a change of livery for this weekend. His car is somewhat pink in flavour now. Edo Mortara going from P8 on the grid. He's 118.422, giving him a fourth row start. He can do some damage from the fourth row, can Edo Mortara. One to be reckoned with potentially in the Mercedes-Benz. So Edo Mortara then with the race suit being zipped up, not far away from the start of this race. Next up, the old mans of the DTM, he says, Timo Glock. And it's always him that said that, not me. 118.407 gives him P7 on the grid. So Timo Glock sharing some laughter. He was another one that had an off earlier on. And in fact brought the qualifying session to an early close, actually, because he ended up, as you can see, reversing his car somewhat unexpectedly into the gravel. Timo is absolutely fine. The car is absolutely fine. And expect him to be another danger man, potentially going from P7 on the grid. The great thing about the DTM race at 55 minutes plus one lap is, of course, strategy plays a part because every driver has to come in for a mandatory pit stop. And Gary Paffett, who is the top of the Drivers' Championship going into this race, as he says, he's quietly confident about going from that third row of the grid. Here is the grid in full for you. Daniel Juncadella and Lucas Hauer. It's an all-Mercedes-Benz front row, a Mercedes lockout. Then we find René Rast, the best of the Audis and the best of the BMWs, the rookie driver, Philippe Eng. To the next row of the grid, we find Augusto Farfus and Gary Paffett. It's Augusto's fine qualifying effort going from P5. Timo Glock and Edo Mortara then, P7 and P8. To the next row of the grid, where we find Marco Wittmann and Pascal Wehrlein, P9 and P10. The fifth row of the grid occupied there. To the next row, it's Paul de Resta, who would have liked better qualifying, and Robin Freins, P11. And then we find Nico Muller and Loic Duval, those two Audis welded together on the seventh row of the grid for race one here at Brands Hatch. Mike Rockenfeller and Joel Eriksson go from the next row of the grid, and bringing up the rear, it's Jamie Green, the British driver, who'll be disappointed as well, and Bruno Spengler is going from P18. It is a beautiful, warm day here at Brands Hatch, and we're on board with the Gary Paffett car. 118.398 then, his qualifying time. Gives him a third row start. And as we heard just a few moments ago, he's actually pretty quietly confident about what he can do from that place on the grid. There is René Rast, who goes from P3 on the grid. Now, bear in mind, René Rast, he pitted early at Zandvoort, and it played nicely into their strategic call because René Rast took the win in the second race at Zandvoort. What can René Rast do from P3 on the grid? A danger man, that's for sure, for the current DTM champion. We're delighted that you've joined us as we look at the Daniel Juncadella car there, which is pole position for the Spanish driver, car number 23. Alongside him is another Mercedes-Benz, Lucas Hauer. It's picturesque and it's beautiful. Closely located to Dartford. This is Brands Hatch. 8 DTM races since 2006. And some of the sights and spectacles of this Kent-based circuit here in the sunshine. Some great shots indeed. So we welcome Great Britain back to the DTM calendar for a number of years. And not using the Indy circuit, but using the full GP circuit, the full 3.9 kilometers. This circuit, of course, opened back in the 1950s. As here's the grid. Daniel Juncadella, Lucas Auer, row 1. Row 2 is René Rast and Philipp Eng. Then row 3 is Augusto Farfus and Gary Paffett. To the next rows of the grid, we find Timo Glock and Edo Mortara, Marco Wittmann and Pascal Wehrlein, Robin Freins and Paul de Resta. Robin Freins going from P11 and Paul de Resta alongside. Then we find Nico Muller and Loic Duval, Mike Rockenfeller, Joel Eriksson, Jamie Green and Bruno Spengler rounding out the grid for this particular race. Race 1 of 2 this weekend here at Brands Hatch before we make our way to the Adriatic coast in Italy, where we will be at the Misano circuit, where the DTM will be racing under the floodlights. So René Rast then is qualifying time of 1:18.255 for the driver of the number 33 car. He's taken but one win this season, and it was the last race. Lucas Auer, who was in the championship hunt virtually all the way through last year, he hasn't had a win so far this season, but he's going from P2 on the grid today. Very good chance, therefore, that the young Austrian could make it onto the top step of the podium, potentially. And Daniel Juncadella, who took a podium finish at the street circuit at Norris Ring with a P3, has put the car P1 on the grid. Pole position for the Spanish driver, Daniel Juncadella. Final stages of preparation for Daniel then, as he gives us the thumbs up. And he's a great character. Super guy is Daniel Juncadella. And then to the points leader, the British star, Gary Paffett then, who, of course, will want to perform well in front of his family, his friends, and all his fans here in Great Britain. This was his off during qualifying, and as we heard from him a little earlier in the programme, whilst it looked like a fairly significant impact, it was full side on and therefore hasn't done any lasting damage to the car. He was still able to put good runs in following that run off, and he freely holds his hands up and says it was my mistake, and thankfully the car has not suffered. Here are the standings then. 148 points to Gary Paffett, Paul de Resta on 121, Timo Glock on 101. Of course, points are up for grabs in qualifying as well, because you get 3 points for P1, 2 points for P2, and 1 point for P3. So Juncadella, Auer and Rast are the beneficiaries of those points from qualifying. Race duration, 55 minutes plus 1 lap, 3.9 kilometres then. And lap record, as I mentioned earlier on, is held by Miguel Molina, who is now a GT racer. He set it in 2010, a 41.896, but don't read too much into that because, of course, that was on the Indy circuit, the short circuit. Air temperature just a shade under 22 degrees, and taking some shade with the glasses and the baseball cap on is just one of the race fans, many of which have packed their way into Brands Hatch for this weekend. So, final stages of preparation for the cars then underway, and we are but a few seconds away from the cars being released on their formation lap. Very much looking forward to this race getting underway. Alongside me, allow me to introduce Mr. Brian Oliver. I know you're as excited as I am for this race and for us being back in the UK with DTM.
Yeah, isn't it great, Dave? Just good to see DTM back in this country again. And here at Brands Hatch, perfect conditions for it. And what's really exciting is we've got some good names that are kind of scattered throughout the grid. And it's got the makings of a really good race. Quite excited to see how they all go into Paddock Hill Bend on that first lap.
Oh, you're right. It is a muddled up grid, to be fair. You make a very fair point. You can never really predict what's going to happen in DTM, and that's one of the reasons we love it so much. But certainly you would have put the likes of probably Paffett and de Resta maybe on the front row of the grid, and maybe also Jamie Green up there as well. So the grid is scattered about a bit, and as you say, that will make for what should be a very, very exciting first few laps. Gary made the point, actually, Brian, that possibly here at Brands Hatch, being new to all of the drivers in terms of the GP configuration, we might not be far away from some safety cars here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a clean sheet of paper for everybody, isn't it? As they start away on their rolling lap. It's everybody's new here this year, aren't they? So it's same for everyone.
The data has been gathered from the packed pre-practice and qualifying sessions that have already been on the tarmac today, and the cars are away on their formation lap before they will come back to their grid boxes. They will have to be millimetrically perfect into their grid boxes before the standing start. Gary Paffett, 148 points. Paul di Resta, 121. Timo Glock, 101 points. Those are the three that are fighting hard in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. And, interestingly, they are scattered about the grid. We have Paul di Resta going from P12, Gary Paffett from P6. And right behind him is, of course, Timo Glock in the all-yellow car that you can see there. In graphics, the grid at the bottom of the screen once again for you as we are about to go racing. So the cars then making their way through this elongated version of the GP circuit, Hawthorne Hill, Hawthorne Bend, which is bend number 5. The drivers are approaching right now. It's not until you've actually gone on the track you realise the elevation changes there are, the uphill sections, downhill sections. I drove the track yesterday, and I have to say, going into Paddock Hill Bend, it's what it's like at race speed. It's terrifying in a normal car. My goodness me, it's like dropping off a cliff edge, Brian. I mean, it's extraordinary. You don't realise it's a real roller coaster from Paddock Hill up Halewood Hill and then into Druids.
Yeah, in the mini challenge earlier on today, I think there was a fairly large accident. Somebody ended up embedded in the tyre barrier. It's always been a tricky corner, that one.
You're right.
And especially today, I should say.
I think you're absolutely right. Okay, the anticipation is going to begin to build then as the cars make their way off the Clearways section and Clark Curve and head down towards their grid boxes on the Brabham Straight as Danny Juncadella chucks the back end of the car out and gets it very, very sideways, trying to generate some heat into those Hankook tyres. So, millimetrically perfect into their grid boxes they have to be. He will have the inside line going into Paddock Hill Bend. Lucas out, I suspect, will dive to the inside to try and protect that inside line. Uli Fritz for Mercedes-Benz looks on from the garages. The boss of the BMW brand are in there, and Dieter Gas then to the right-hand side of your picture in the Audi garage as well. We await Bruno Spengler to make his way into his grid box. Once he has done that, the green flag from the marshal at the rear. Stand by. DTM is back in the UK. We are ready to go racing when 5 lights go out. All heck will break loose as the cars head towards Paddock Hill Bend. Bruno Spengler already getting past Joel Eriksson. Lucas Auer has had a blistering start. So too has Rene Rast. He braves it around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. Daniel Juncadella had a torrid time getting away. And the big beneficiary is Lucas Auer. Jamie Green already trying to fight up some places as well. Rene Rast has put himself into P2. Timo Glock and Gary Paffett, not for the first time this season, side by side, and Timo Glock wins that little battle. So for the first time of asking, they make their way out of the Graham Hill Bend, along the Cooper Straight, and then the big left-hander as side by side, Philip Eng and Augusto Farfus, who are fighting over that place there as Danny Juncadella continues to drop back. Under the bridge then at Hawthorne Hill, come these DTM cars. And still Augusto Farfus on the outside of Philip Eng, and he manages to put himself ahead of the number 25 car. Philip Eng trying very, very hard to get the better of the Brazilian driver Augusto Farfus. And all of a sudden the lap, it just eats away, and they go through the Stirling's Bend and head towards the Clearways section of the Brands Hatch circuit here. And in virtually no time at all, the first lap will have been completed. So from a strategic point of view, Timo Glock has come in. There was another car came in, Brian. I think it was Rene Rast. Yes, it is. Also coming in, Robin Freins, Pascal Wehrlein. So a number of cars coming in to play this early card strategy.
Yeah, we saw it working in the previous round, and it's so good to see them coming in early on that. Rene Rast was the first, but that start from Lucas Auer, wasn't that just a blistering start? He absolutely took off.
Well, of course, it's banked, isn't it? The start-finish straight as you head into Paddock Hill Bend. He just got the momentum, didn't he? Here comes Rene Rast, here comes Timo Glock then. The mandatory pit stops then are done and dusted very early on in this race, and is this going to play into their favour when the race unfolds? We bear in mind we've still got 53 minutes plus 1 lap of this race to come. A lot can happen between now and then, but 4 or 5 cars, well, in fact 6 cars choosing to pit early. Rene Rast, Timo Glock, Paul di Resta, Loic Duval, Robin Freins, and Bruno Spengler, Loic Duval is under investigation for a potential unsafe release, and we have got a yellow flag, and that's around the Druids' turn, because out, I fear, is the Gary Pavic. No, it's Loic Duval. It's the Loic Duval car that is in the barriers, and where that is situated at Druids, this could be a safety car. Loic Duval is not returning from there, so let's wait and see. At the moment, we have a local yellow. But the cars are about to head down Paddock Hill Bend now, up to that particular section where Loic Duval finds his car embedded into the tyre barriers. Now, Loic Duval was one of those that pitted early on. Bear in mind, he will have come out on completely cold tyres. And also in now, this is Marco Wittmann, and Nico Müller has come in as well. Well, we remain yellow around turn number 2, the Druids' turn, before you head downhill once again towards the Graham Hill Bend, and out comes Marco Wittmann. There is René Rast and Timo Glock, both of whom have already stopped, of course, in that early stoppage. René Rast, there's Marco Wittmann, and we're on board with Timo Glock. There you can see the Loic Duval car. To be fair, from that angle, Brian, we can see that actually maybe it's far enough away for us to not have but we do have a slow zone deployed now. So slow zone 3 is deployed, and that means the car's mandatory reduced in speed for the recovery of that Loic Duval car. Fighting continuing here, Nico Müller and Paul de Resta and Timo Glock. So you can see the yellow SZ ticker at the top of the graphics indicating that slow zone, and that slow zone is all the way from turn 8 through turn 9, turn 1 and turn 2, as the Loic Duval car is going to be recovered. So it's going to be a non-finish for Loic Duval. He just got out there, and Robin Friends on the inside, and Loic Duval, he just braked, but the car was just not going to turn in, so it's a fairly innocuous knock into the tyre barriers, but clearly Loic Duval is not going to be returning from there. So first sad retirement, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course they're not allowed tyre warmers here, so came out on cold tyres and just probably a little bit too quick. Really interesting to see so many cars pitting on that lap 1. I know René Rast really made that strategy work at the last round, and a lot of people adopting that this time. And just a very interesting strategy to get in, get that pit stop done, and get back out again.
Yes. Now, indicative on the left-hand side of your screen is the laps of when people came in for their pit stops, and Marco Wittmann and Nico Müller coming in lap 2. So Loic Duval is out of the car. The recovery operation continues, so that slow zone. And when you see the cars going through the slow zone, Brian, it is positively pedestrian, isn't it?
It really is, compared to what we're used to when they're at racing speed. But it's got to be done. Safety is everything here, isn't it?
That's where Lucas Auer scored in the start. We're seeing it in replay, because basically Juncadella just gave it a footfall. The back end of the car stepped out, whereas the launch that Lucas Auer had, and also René Rast, vastly superior, and they were able to put themselves in that P1 and P2 position on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend, running up towards Druids. Job done.
Yeah.
So Danny Juncadella really losing out there. And there you can see Arno Zenzen looking on, and he was pretty happy with that from René Rast. And here is the slow zone in operation. It's like the Tesco car park, isn't it, Brian?
It really is. Yeah, that start, Daniel Juncadella, he just got a load of wheel spin. You saw the car just twitching sideways, way too much wheel spin, and it just gave Lucas Auer and René Rast a real advantage as they were able to get around him.
So the car's through the slow zone then, and you can see there is Danny Juncadella, who is behind the car of Lucas Auer, P2, because of course René Rast chose to pit very, very early on. The two cars are virtually welded together, and Lucas Auer then finding himself in the lead of the race. We're on board with Philipp Eng, the BMW Team RMR driver, crawling in this slow zone up towards the Druids' turn. How are we getting on with the recovery operation? Well, the crane is still there and the Loic Duval car is still there, so we're going to have this slow zone for a few laps yet. They cross the sector line, and well, the cars can be brought back into life after that sector line. They go back to racing again, and Lucas Auer and Daniel Juncadella, where you can see how the gap has come down between Lucas Auer and Daniel Juncadella. Augusto Farfus finding himself P3. Philippe Eng is P4. And, of course, Gary Paffett is P5, the British driver who leads the Drivers' Championship. So in the sunshine at Brands Hatch, Lucas Au, the Austrian driver, is leading this race. His career, or his season so far, unlike his career, his season this year has been winless, which is really surprising. And the slow zone has been removed now, so we can go back to complete green flag conditions all the way around the circuit and get back to racing proper. So, as you can see from the left-hand side of your screen, those still to pit: Lucas Au, Daniel Juncadella, Augusto Farfus, Philippe Eng, Gary Paffett, although Farfus comes in now, and I think Philippe Eng came in as well.
Copy pit lane.
So, certainly Augusto Farfus, yes, and I called that correctly. Philippe Eng also in. So, the two BMW drivers coming in at the same time. Also coming in is Mike Rockenfeller. So, Augusto Farfus then, they go to work on that car as quickly as possible. Only two engineers are allowed to work either side of the car. A 6.5 and 7.1 stop for Philippe Eng and Augusto Farfus respectively. So they come out of the pit lane in the same order that they came in as they go to work on the Mike Rockenfeller car as well. And that looked like a slightly a shabbier stop. Perhaps no, actually 6.9 seconds for Mike Rockenfeller, so that's pretty reasonable. So the cars make their way out of the pit lane into Paddock Hill Bend once again. So René Rast continues his pursuit. He, of course, having already been in, and he should find that Philippe Eng is really rather easy prey because Rast's tyres will be up to temperature. Philippe Eng's will not. However, a point that you've made, Brian Oliver, alongside me in Race Comms this weekend, is that it's quite a narrow track. It's not necessarily so easy to overtake in places, but when you're on cold tyres versus tyres that are up to temperature, as René Rast has just indicated, it's made to look really rather easy.
It really is, and we saw when Philippe Eng came out of the pits, he was weaving, trying to get some temperature into those tyres. Obviously, René Rast, who had pitted on lap 1, just came sailing past. But there is, of course, the issue that with the slow zone, they're going along behind the safety car at slower speeds. Not behind the safety car, sorry, at a slower speed, but you're losing temperature in the tyres, you're losing temperature in the brakes. So that's always a factor when they're restarting.
Absolutely right. Gary Paffett has been in. As we see on screen that Loic Duval is going to be reported to the stewards with regards to a potential unsafe release from when he came in for his mandatory pit stop. We're following René Rast then. Lucas Au is leading the race from Daniel Juncadella and Eduardo Mortara. Here comes Gary Paffett then, who will get out alongside Augusto Farfus. He'll try and make the car as wide as possible as he tries to get some temperature into those tyres, but he's easy prey for Augusto Farfus up on the inside. He'll close the door on René Rast, that's for sure, as they head from Druids down towards the Graham Hill Bend. Of course, Graham Hill's son is here as a guest of DTM this weekend. Great to see Damon Hill on the grid earlier on, and I'll have the privilege of talking to him shortly. Gary Paffett then and René Rast side by side as they make their way up onto the GP loop then, and Philippe Eng is trying to get past Gary Paffett as well. Philippe Eng, who's got a bit more temperature into the tyres now, having done that sort of outlap from his mandatory pit stop, and he does go through on the Mercedes-Benz of Gary Paffett. So Paffett then aggressive in his quest to try and get the temperature into those Hankook tyres, is in from Daniel Juncadella then, who was running in P2 behind Lucas Au, which means Edo Mortara is at P2 currently. Here is René Rast. Is the strategy going to pay for René Rast in much the same way that it did in Zandvoort just some weeks ago when DTM last appeared? It was on the sand dunes that surround the Zandvoort circuit on the coast of the Netherlands. Danny Juncadella then out of the pit lane, and here comes Augusto Farfus. So down that Paddock Hill Bend, and that camera angle really doesn't give you the full appreciation of just how steep that is into Druids now. And Rast then, as we're on board with him, down towards the Graham Hill Bend. They hug the outside and then take the outside on the exit of the turn. The outside of the curbs going in, and then also on the out. Philippe Eng fighting with that RMR BMW then, as he continues his quest after René Rast. And there is the returning Daniel Juncadella, who's desperately trying to get some temperature into those tyres before the chasing pack comes falling down behind. So there is Eng, BMW, there's Rast. So René Rast then, who of course going into this weekend further down in the championship order than he would like to be. Still a lot of races to come from the DTM before the season concludes in Hockenheim in Germany. So Lucas Auer then race leader, and Lucas Auer has not pitted yet. Makes his way onto the Grand Prix section of the track once again. Down under the bridge. Fantastic shot there of the real speed that's carried by these phenomenally fast DTM cars. Out to the bottom part of the circuit then, right at the what we would call out the back as you go downhill once again. And Lucas Auer then pushing that Mercedes-Benz for all it's worth in the lead of this race, trying to build himself a big margin so that he can come in and give himself the most momentum, if you like, in terms of space when he comes in for his stop. Of course, the chase is going to be between himself and Daniel Juncadella, and he comes in now. It was almost as if I knew that was going to happen. Brian Oliver, talk us through this pit stop for Lucas Auer.
So here comes Lucas Auer. He's in, obviously limited to the number of mechanics that are allowed to be working on the car at any one time. But it's looking like a good smooth stop here, and he's out. Good smooth stop. Cold tyres though, he needs to be careful as he comes out into the pit lane. Needs to be safe, and he needs to not overcook it when he comes out onto the track.
You can damage the tyres by being too aggressive in terms of trying to warm them up. You're quite right. Where I do take issue with you is I think 7.5 seconds is not good. We've seen 6.7, 6.8, 6.9. Yeah. We are talking about 4-5 tenths, but 4-5 tenths can make a real difference. Here comes Daniel Juncadella then. So Lucas Auer back out. He's on cold tyres. Here's Daniel Juncadella and Augusto Farfus, who are on tyres that are completely warm and up to temperature. Lucas Auer will stick his elbows out and try and make the car as wide as possible. His brand mate Daniel Juncadella then, as they head down from Druids, heading in towards the Graham Hill bend, is, well, defenceless, truthfully, through that turn, and Augusto Farfus is going to come through as well. Will he be able to keep the car wide as René Rast approaches? So we're on board with René Rast now as he chases down the Lucas Auer car. Leader for the moment is Edo Mortara, then Pascal Wehrlein and Jamie Green, but those three drivers have all yet to stop. So Lucas Auer on the back part of this circuit now as they head through the Hawthorne bend is trying to make it very difficult for René Rast to try and find a way past. It's Mercedes-Benz versus Audi. The back end of the Mercedes-Benz just stepped out a bit. As they head down now, this section, René Rast continues to be stuck behind the Lucas Auer car, probably from a defensive point of view through Stirling's Bend. Lucas Auer has done a good job as they head up towards Clearways now. If he can put this lap in the book without having lost out to René Rast, he will consider that he's done very well indeed. To be fair, René Rast is having to think about defending now from Philipp Eng, who's got a real charge on here going into Paddock Hill Bend. These three fighting very hard. It's playing into the hands of Lucas Auer, who's able to escape up the road. Philipp Eng just takes a look at the inside of René Rast, but just has to bail out of that potential overtake through Druids. They come downhill once again to Graham Hill. And, of course, lurking just behind the Philipp Eng car is the British driver Gary Paffett, who in front of a big fan base here at Brands Hatch would certainly like to reel in the BMW ahead of him and try and get past as well. Merely two cars have yet to stop. They are Edo Mortara and Pascal Wehrlein, two Mercedes-Benz drivers who are currently P1 and P2, but that is pre-pit stop. Effectively, the race leader is Daniel Juncadella. P2 will be Augusto Farfus, and P3 will be Lucas Auer. So Lucas really losing out to the BMW driver of Augusto Farfus. So new livery, new colour for Edo Mortara, who leads the race at the moment, but being chased hard by Pascal Wehrlein. But bear in mind, both of them have yet to stop. So super slow-mo replay of Edo Mortara then as he kicks up a bit of dust and runs just a little bit wide, and that cost him a bit of momentum, didn't it? But he was able to keep the car ahead of Pascal Wehrlein, which really surprises me. Thought Pascal would have been able to perhaps take more advantage of that, but Brian, he wasn't quite close enough to be able to do so.
No, I have to say, when I saw him get two wheels on the dirt, I thought Pascal was going to be past him, but it just wasn't to be. the tyres obviously pick up all that dirt as well, and it takes a couple of corners just to get rid of that dirt out of those slick tyres. So the fact that he's held Pascal Wehrlein off is pretty good, really.
Yeah, impressive. Good driving from Edo Mortara, who leads from Pascal Wehrlein, but bear in mind, those two have yet to stop. So the real race leader is Daniel Juncadella, who the strategy has worked really well for him, given that he, as in comes Edo Mortara now, and Pascal Wehrlein remains the only car that is yet to stop. So, as I was saying then, the strategy has worked really well from Daniel Juncadella. Now, bear in mind, he started in pole position, that botched start where he lost the back end of the car and so much wheel spin, as you correctly pointed out, which really cost him valuable time at the start, and Lucas and René Rast were able to take advantage of that. Well, he's metaphorically got his own back, hasn't he, by putting himself ahead of Lucas and Augusto Farfus. So here's Edo Mortara then on his way out of the pit lane now, having made his mandatory stop. And where is he going to factor out? Just behind Philippe Eng, I guess. And of course he'll be easy prey for the next car, which is Gary Paffett. Gary Paffett goes through on the outside of the entry to Paddock Hill. So Wehrlein then is the only one staying out there. Different strategy from Pascal Wehrlein. Will it pay off? Only time will tell. What you've got to factor in is that Pascal Wehrlein is quite a few seconds up the road. Now, the actual pit stop time, we've seen times 6.9, 6.7, 6.8, maybe 7s and 7.1s. It's the actual time it takes from pit in to pit out, Brian. But not only that, you're then disadvantageously on tyres that have not been warmed up, so it actually costs more than that in terms of time, as Edo Mortara and he's got Marco Wittmann for company now. You can see just how wide Edo Mortara is trying to make that Mercedes-Benz, with Marco Wittmann trying to find a way past him, and thus far has been denied. So Edo doing a good job as he continues to put temperature into those tyres. He's defending very hard as well from Marco Wittmann, and also Jamie Green, the British driver, into that little battle as well. Three-way fight going on here now.
Yeah, we've seen it pretty well. Every car that we've seen pit, when they've come out, they've lost several places as they try and get those tyres up temperature. So that's really a valid point. Pascal Wehrlein needs to be putting in those really hot laps now to make that, make up those places, make up that time. The car's going to be getting lighter because he's burning fuel, but I don't know if it'll make enough difference to him to actually be able to come out that far up the order.
Well, he's sorry to interrupt, but just to reinforce what you're saying, he's actually 0.3 quicker than the quickest cars out there. Juncadella and Farfus are in the 120.1s. Wehrlein's in the 120.3s or 4s. So the tyre degradation he's suffering, whilst he has got a lighter fuel load, I accept that. He's not quite as quick as potentially he needs to be as we see him cross the timing line now. Here is Pascal Wehrlein. His last lap was a 120.7, you see, so the time is beginning to drop away for Pascal Wehrlein. So what is he up the road from Daniel Juncadella? That's the critical point. When Daniel Juncadella crosses the timing line relative to where Pascal Wehrlein is, because Pascal Wehrlein is making his way through the Graham Hill bend now, and Daniel Juncadella is heading towards the timing line. He crosses that, so Wehrlein has got 26 seconds, 26.2 over Daniel Juncadella. It isn't enough, Brian.
No, it really isn't. It's quite interesting to see that the first three in the driver's standings at the moment are all struggling a little bit this afternoon. Gary Paffett's obviously, he's doing reasonably well in 7th place, but not as high as you'd expect. But Paul de Resta and Timo Glock not in positions that you'd expect them to be in, actually.
No, and that's one of the great things about DTM is that, you know, you can come off the back of a very successful weekend in Zandvoort and think you know who's going to be doing all the good stuff in the next round. Never happens like that. Any one of the 18 drivers is always a potential race winner. So here comes Pascal Wehrlein. Is it this time that he dives into the pit lane? Goodness me, I've predicted both of those correct, haven't I?
You're a genius.
No, I'm not. Here comes Pascal Wehrlein then. The HWA team go to work on the Pascal Wehrlein car as quickly as... Oh, and there's a problem with the front. Now that has cost valuable tenths. This is not going to be a quick time for Pascal Wehrlein. And there's a problem with the rear as well. 10 seconds. I know it's only 10 seconds, but when you compare that to 6.8s and 6.7s, Brian.
Yeah, when we're talking about a grid that started off with 7/10 separating the first 17 cars, that counts for a lot. 4 seconds extra is going to count for an awful lot.
Here he comes then.
He comes out.
Yeah, and he's going to be behind Gary Paffett and ahead of Edo Mortara, but of course Mortara's tyres are going to be up to temperature. So of course Wehrlein and Mortara were fighting together, weren't they? They were the last two to stop. And here we can see the problem then. So the wheel gun was on, but the wheel just refused to come off. And for an engineer, for a mechanic, you know, because these are rehearsed, they're practiced time and time again. You win and you lose as a team, and it was oh so frustrating to see that stuck. And that cost, I don't think it would have actually made too much difference, but nonetheless, it did cost some valuable time. So we go back to the real race order then. It's Juncadella from Farfus, from Lucas Auer, from Rast, from Eng, and from Gary Paffett, who is P6 and is center of our screens right now. Here is Lucas Auer, who of course made that blistering start, and René Rast's start was not too shabby either. Find themselves P3 and P4. Augusto Farfus in that best position he's been in so far this year in DTM this season. Ahead of Lucas Auer and René Rast. Augusto Farfus, he stopped on lap 5, and the strategy has really worked for Augusto Farfus, who's now beginning to, I'm just looking at the gap between Juncadella and Farfus. Now, you've got to be within 1 second of the car ahead of you to get DRS use. And Augusto Farfus is 8/10 behind Daniel Juncadella. Fight on. Stand by. The Mercedes driver is going to be under threat from the Brazilian. We've got, just 31 minutes plus 1 lap of the race still to come. Here's Timo Glock and Jamie Green and Robin Freins. And there is Marco Wittmann. When you see the LED indicator flashing in the rear quarter as Jamie Green takes an excursion onto the gravel, when you see that LED light indicator flashing, it means that the DRS is being deployed, and Timo Glock was able to make relatively short work of Jamie Green, who we're on board with now with this fantastic splitter cam as he chases down the BMW of Timo Glock just ahead of him. At the moment, P1, 2 and 3, Danny Juncadella, Augusto Farfus, Lucas Auer. We're on board with Jamie Green, who's P11, chasing down that Timo Glock car. But Jamie Green is another driver that's made very, very good progress in this race relative to where he started, Brian.
Yeah, he really has, working his way through. He started in a very lowly 17th place, so to make it up to 10th in a very competitive field, definitely going forwards, putting in some good lap times as well.
So the order on the left-hand side of the screen, as you can see, and the DRS laps of use available to them, you can see on the graphics at the bottom of the screen, because every car is given 12 laps worth of DRS use. You get 3 deployments of DRS in the lap. Whether you use 1 or 3 is academic, because once you've engaged DRS for the first time in that lap, providing you're within 1 second of the car ahead of you, you have got 3 usages. If you use 1, then you lose 2. So therefore you have all 3 usages to be used in that lap following your engagement of DRS. I hope that makes sense. Juncadella then, who's got 11 DRS laps left. Augusto Farfus is using his DRS like there's no tomorrow. Other than Bruno Spengler, he's the one with the least amount of laps left of DRS usage. So basically he's trying to chase down Daniel Juncadella, but Daniel Juncadella doing a good job of maintaining that gap at the moment, because he's increased it by a couple of tenths, to be fair. It's gone from 8 tenths to a second now, and once it goes over a second, that means that Farfus actually drops out of that DRS band, if you like. Jamie Green is chasing down Robin Freins for that P11 place. The final points earner at the moment is Timo Glock in the all-yellow BMW, who's currently running in P10. Chasing down Marco Wittmann. Gary Paffett, points leader. Well, P6 means that he will bank some points, but he would like to get on terms with Philip Eng ahead of him as he makes his way through the Graham Hill bend now, run to the outside of the exit of Graham Hill along this short Cooper straight before the left-hander and uphill, and losing just a bit of momentum there was Lucas Harris. Make their way up towards the Hawthorne Hill. There is Gary Paffett, the British star. Then, as we go on board with him now, we go down Hawthorne Hill and up towards the Hawthorne Bend, the right-hander, and along the Derek Milner Straight before the Westfield Bend. Brian, it's a thrill to be able to say some of those names as the DTM does return to the UK and here at the Brands Hatch circuit on the long circuit.
Oh, isn't it just? This is an iconic circuit with an amazing history, and it's so good to see DTM back here. Not only is it good to see them back here, but to see them on the big Grand Prix circuit.
As they cross the timing line now, Lucas Auer ahead of Rennie Rast, and Lucas Auer with a nice margin over Rennie Rast of a full 2 seconds between. It's a full 2 seconds between Rast and Eng. It's about a second between Lucas Auer and Rennie Rast, as Daniel Juncadella just loses the back end of the car a little bit. But you know what? I think Daniel Juncadella has got this all at the moment seemingly under control, because he's just quietly going about setting some incredible laps. I mean, he's lapping his last lap was a 1:20.6. Farfus's last lap was a 1:20.9. So he is consistently quicker, and that means he's able to elevate that margin to 1.8 seconds. So Augusto Farfus chasing him down, but he's not chasing him down quite quick enough. And it's a further 3.4 seconds back, Brian, before you get to the P3 driver, Lucas Auer.
Yes, absolutely. And for Daniel Juncadella, it's critical just to stay outside of that 1 second DRS zone. So he's keeping that 1.8 second gap, which is pretty critical, really, so that Lucas Auer doesn't get a chance to get him under the DRS.
He's managing it perfectly, isn't he?
He really is.
Really clever driving from Daniel Juncadella. I mean, I say clever driving, he's got to have the pace to be able to do that, but he is consistently lapping 0.3 quicker, a 1:20.659 last time around, and a 1:20.9 for Augusto Farfus. So he's just managing a very good job as we're into the final 26th minute of the race, plus one lap, of course. The order on the left-hand side of the screen for you: Juncadella, Farfus, Auer, then it's Rennie Rast, Philipp Eng, Gary Paffett, Pascal Wehrlein, Edo Mortara, Marco Wittmann, and Timo Glock in the last points-paying position. What's nice is that we've got all manufacturers across the top 4 places, because we have Juncadella and Lucas Auer P1 and P3 sandwiching the BMW of this man, Augusto Farfus, that we can see centre screen, and Rennie Rast for Audi is running in P4. Some super slow-mo replay here of Daniel Juncadella then. I love that hyper slow-mo. A really fantastic image of this Mercedes-Benz car of Daniel Juncadella. Just increases now to 2.143, the margin between himself and Augusto Farfus. Onto the Clearways part of the circuit. Always known to me as Clearways Oval, because some oval racing used to take part here, but going back in the dim and distant past. Such a rich heritage of all sorts of motorsport here at Brands Hatch, including rallycross and bikes and trucks and all sorts of things. It is, as far as I'm concerned, still a hugely iconic British racing circuit. Hugely iconic British racing star is this man, Gary Paffett, who we're on board with now. Is he getting any closer to Philipp Eng? So the gap between Paffett and Philipp Eng is, he's not quite within DRS yet, Brian, is he?
No, he isn't. He's just not, Gary Paffett is just not doesn't seem to be getting to grips with this track in the way that he has earlier on in the season, as far as I can see.
I'm not sure I agree with you. I think it's. I don't think Gary's confidence will have taken a knock from that rub with the barriers earlier on. But as we can see, the focus on his face now. Was he 1.4 seconds within Philipp Eng? If he could get that down to under a second, of course, that would give him some DRS availability, assuming he has enough left to be able to use to chase down that Augusto Farfus. The Philipp Eng car ahead of him. Philipp Eng running in P5. Augusto Farfus, that we saw on the picture, of course, running in P2, chasing down Daniel Juncadella, but in fairness, he's not chasing him down at all, because he is some 2.6 seconds behind now. If anything, Lucas Auer is getting a bit closer, and Rennie Rast is getting a bit closer to Lucas Auer as well. So Paffett has got plenty of DRS laps left available to him. In fact, so much so that I'm beginning to wonder if Paffett is being shown as having 12 DRS laps. Wonder if it's broken.
He just hasn't been close enough to anybody to actually use it so far, has he?
No.
But he is slowly closing in on Eng, isn't he, on Philip Eng?
Glock losing the back end of the car there. Forgive me interrupting you down from Paddock Hill Bend. But I'm sure that Gary has been close enough in the course of the race so far to be within DRS of someone. Who else have we got on 12? Lucas Auer, Paffett. They're the only two, aren't they? In fairness, Daniel Juncadella, you can understand having 11 left because he's leading the pack and he's got no one ahead of him. Paul di Resta is another one with a lot of DRS usage available to him. How far back on Joel Eriksson is Paul di Resta? Well, quite a bit, isn't he? That might be the reason behind that. So there is Timo Glock, who is running, as I say, in that final points-paying position. You just saw him going down Paddock Hill, having just run out onto the gravel a little bit, and all of a sudden now Robin Freins can sense the opportunity that he can perhaps reel in that all-yellow BMW. Robin Freins, the Netherlands-based racer then, in the Audi. As they cross the timing line here, expect the DRS of Robin Freins to open. Well, they're open on both the Timo Glock and Robin Freins cars, so Robin takes a look at the inside, and of course you can use DRS to not only attack but also defend, Brian, providing you're within a second of the car ahead of you. You can use it as a bit of a defensive measure as well, and that's exactly what happened with Timo Glock there in terms of trying to defend against Robin Freins. As Jamie Green now, who's really making his way up the order, isn't he? Running in P12 with Robin Freins ahead of him now, and Jamie Green is virtually welded to the back of his brand mate, Robin Freins. There's Timo Glock as the cars then, and Mike Rockefeller is about to join in that little party as well. It's a four-way fight that's going on for the final podium, the final points-paying position, I should say. So there is Jamie Green then, the British driver in car number 53, who, by his admission, has not had a stellar year. His best finish has been a P6, and if memory serves, that came at Lausitzring. There is Timo Glock, who, of course, going into this race, P3 in the Drivers' Championship. P4 is Marco Wittmann in the Drivers' Championship, and he's way down the order. He's P9 at the moment, so it's all been muddled up somewhat, hasn't it, into this race at Brands Hatch, but that's exactly what we like. The entertainment value, entertainment factor even greater. So Robin Freins, is he going to have a go now? Takes to the inside of Timo Glock as they head towards Paddock Hill. Robin Freins, is it going to be a little rub between the two of them? There's racing room left by Robin Freins on Timo Glock, who'll try and brave it out around the outside, but Robin Freins has got the momentum. The inside, of course, of that turn quickly becomes the outside of the next one, but he was able to get the job done before they made the run down towards Graham Hill and closed the door quite firmly in the face of Timo Glock. So good driving from Robin Freins as Jamie Green now gets up on the inside of Timo Glock. Again, a little bit of rubbing between the two of them, and going to try and benefit from this is potentially Mike Rockefeller as they go three abreast. Look at this. No one can tell you that the racing in DTM is not close, and Mike Rockefeller has done 2 in 1. Brilliant opportunistic move from Mike Rockefeller, Brian.
That was stunning driving. I mean, Timo Glock was driving a very good defensive line, but Mike Rockefeller just came steaming through both of them. What a move, and a lot of bravery to go 3 abreast on a track like this.
It was completely opportunistic from Mike Rockefeller, but as those two fought, he thought, you know what? He rubbed his hands with invisible soap, metaphorically, and thought, I'm going to take advantage of this. And boy, he did. And now that he has, he's up the road. So as they cross the timing line now, the order changes somewhat with regards to those positions, because the final points payer now is with Robin Freins, and Mike Rockefeller is P11, Jamie Green is P12, and Timo Glock is relegated to P13, and he has the rookie BMW driver Joel Eriksson for company now. We're into the final 20 minutes of this DTM race, 1 of 2 across this weekend, and the great thing is that wherever you're watching this race, and we very much hope you're with us here at Brands Hatch, you can see what's happening out on track today. Promise you this, ain't going to be the same tomorrow. And the weather could play a part tomorrow. This in replay then. Just watch Mike Rockenfeller here as Glock and Green battled. Rocky said, tell you what, let's make it 3 here. And 3 together as they headed up towards that Hawthorne bend. And of course, who had the inside line? It was the driver of car number 99, Mike Rockenfeller. What a move. So there you can see the car of Joel Eriksson running in P14. Behind him is the Audi driver Nico Müller, and then having a torrid time of it today, Paul di Resta in P16. Bruno Spengler is P17. The only driver that we've lost from the pack, Loic Duval, who following his mandatory pit stop found himself the wrong side of gravel at Druids and will take no further part in the race. Once again, Timo Glock runs wide. That plays into the hands a little bit of Joel Eriksson, the Swede in the number 47 car as they make their way through Druids, the very bend that I was talking about that claimed the Loic Duval car just a few laps ago. Through Graham Hill now, along the Cooper Straight before the left-hander and uphill towards Hawthorne. This, though, is the race leader, who we've not seen very much of because he's just been quietly extending his lead, Brian, which is now up to 3.3 seconds over Augusto Farfus, and then there's another 3.5 seconds back to Lucas Auer, and then it's Rasteng and Paffett. They're all spread out quite nicely across the top 6 places, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel Juncadella hasn't had to use that DRS very much, has he? Because he's had a clear track in front of him. First 3 very well spaced out at the moment. So a lot of the good battles are further back down the order, aren't they?
Yes, and actually when you start looking at the battles further down the order, very, very exciting they become as well. But this man is just quietly going about his business, nailing every apex of every turn. He's lapping in the 1:21.0s, whereas everyone else is not lapping as quickly. So Juncadella is still quick, isn't he? And that's why he is just quietly extending his lead over Augusto Farfus across every single lap. But to be fair to the Brazilian driver in the BMW that's P2 at the moment, he's in the same position over Lucas Auer because his and Lucas Auer's lap times are almost identical, so Auer is not able to get any advantage. Here's the live championship prediction. If everything stays this way, Paffett on 156, di Resta 121, Lucas Auer will become 106 P3, Timo Glock dropping down to P5 in the Drivers' Championship if everything stays the way it is at the moment. The first red shows up on the indicators on the left-hand side of your screen, which means Jamie Green has got no more DRS availability for him for the 15 minutes remain, plus the 1 lap. So Lucas Auer crosses the timing line now. And as if to reinforce my point, it was a 121.3 for Lucas Auer, a 121.4 for René Rast. Juncadella and Farfus are marginally quicker than both of them. We're on board with Paul di Resta. And this was Nico Müller running a bit wide. And Paul di Resta saying anything you can do, I can do better. And he bounced the car across the grass as well. Splitter cam then as we run into Paddock Hill Bend. And the road just dips away from you before you start climbing up towards Druids. And we were on board with the Paul di Resta car at that point. So there is the Paul di Resta car. Car number 3. Daniel Juncadella leading the race from Augusto Farfus, Lucas Auer, René Rast, Philipp Eng, Gary Paffett, Pascal Wehrlein, Edo Mortara, Marco Wittmann, and Robin Freins rounding out the top 10 at the moment. Stay on board with Paul di Resta, who gives a real clunk onto the sequential gearbox paddle on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. As you can see, he fights with the steering wheel as he heads up towards the next right-hander, kisses the curbs and hits the apex of that absolutely perfectly before this sweeping section through Dingle Dell, heading up towards the Sheen curve. Paul di Resta in that car number 3. Paul di Resta, who's taken 1 win, came at the Hungaroring earlier on in the season, but has banked another couple of podiums as well. Took P2 and a P3 at Zandvoort. Here is our P2 driver, Augusto Farfus. If it stays this way, it'll be by far and away his best finish in the season so far. His best has been a P7, which was at the Hungaroring circuit. So Juncadella and Farfus, and Juncadella just extending the gap between himself and Augusto Farfus in pursuit, with 13 minutes remaining, 4 seconds the gap between Daniel Juncadella and Augusto Farfus, with Lucas Auer and René Rast P3 and P4. So there is Augusto Farfus then. A P5 at Zandvoort in the last round. Could be eclipsed here at the British circuit of Brands Hatch as the car rounds the final turn and crosses the timing line. Juncadella has already been through and is going down Paddock Hill Bend and now climbing up towards Druids through Halewood Hill. And Daniel Juncadella, I have to say, Brian, just watching him lap after lap after lap in the 120.9s, he's the quickest guy out there, and his laps have been absolutely faultless.
Yeah, and the one thing about him is he's consistent, isn't it? He's permanently consistent, putting in times that are the same lap after lap, not making mistakes, not even using his DRS, just seems to be in control of the race.
You're absolutely right. Of course, the opportunity for him to use DRS not available because he's not within the second of anyone ahead of him. If he were to reach a backmarking car, he would have that opportunity, but actually his margin of 4.3 seconds is so great over Augusto Farfus that he kind of needs not worry about it. Super slow-mo of our race leader, then Daniel Juncadella doing a very, very good job out there. Love those images, and love this image as well. As underneath the bridge comes Daniel Juncadella, rejoins the clearway section of the circuit here at Brands Hatch and books another lap into the memory, done and dusted, and puts another few tenths on Augusto Farfus, to be fair. So, you know, consistency, Brian, that you mentioned just a few moments ago, he really is exemplary in what he's doing every single lap. We bring the car into focus once again with just under 11 minutes plus 1 lap of the race remaining. Daniel Juncadella, the race leader. Augusto Farfus chasing him in the BMW, and then Lucas Auer, who's running in P3. Oh, look, we're on the telly and I don't want to be. As they turn around, not happy about being caught on the camera there. So Daniel Juncadella then back into the DTM, of course, this season, Formula 3 racer. And Daniel Juncadella in the number 23 car. His podium came in race 2 at Norris Ring, and he was really, really delighted with that podium. He's a really, really likable guy, and he's doing a great job out there as they round the final turn. The Clark curve, heads towards the timing line, puts another lap in and extends the lead by another few tenths. I mean, the pace he's got is consistently, Brian, lap after lap, he's 3 tenths quicker, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we've been saying all along. That's what makes the winner, isn't it? It's consistency, it's controlling the pace from the front, not getting flustered, not making stupid mistakes, just keeping, I say that, he's got 2 wheels on the dirt, but he's got it under control from the front.
And when you consider the botched start that he had, where he just got too much wheel spin and lost the back end of the car, this has been a very, very good strategic recovery from Daniel Juncadella. We're on board with René Rast, who of course is just off the podium at the moment, running in P4, and super slow-mo of René Rast then down the Paddock Hill Bend. And this from earlier on in the race when René Rast was running in P5, of course. He is running P4. Philip Eng is the driver that is in P5. On board with Rast now. And you can see the spectators waving their flags to entertain themselves as the race continues. And into the final 9 minutes plus 1 lap of this first DTM race, which may, just may, be weather affected tomorrow. Not sure yet. Here comes Rast then to cross the timing line. And the gap now between himself and Lucas Auer, it's 1.8, is that right? So there you can see the Lucas Auer car going through. Here is René Rast. Both Auer and Rast have got DRS availability to them, although Auer is nothing like close enough to Augusto Farfus to be able to use it. So therefore, if René Rast, over the remaining 8 minutes plus 1 lap, can reel in Lucas Auer sufficiently, he will have DRS advantage in that fight for the final podium place, Brian. So here he is then, making his way up the Hawthorne Hill, under the bridge, heading towards the Hawthorne Bend now, in quest of that Mercedes-Benz that is ahead of him, the young Austrian, Lucas Auer. So Derek Milner straight now before the right-hander, which is Westfield. And then, of course, Dingle Dell. Those iconic names through the Sheen curve, turn number 7. And then the next turn is the Stirling's Bend, as we pick up on Jamie Green now, who's running in P12, with Mike Rockenfeller there running in P11. Robin Freins, of course, occupying the final points-paying position in P10 for Audi. So really interested to see the difference between Auer and Rast. So Rast chasing Lucas Auer, as I say, for that final podium place. But Lucas Auer has responded, hasn't he, by pushing the hurry-up pedal down a bit more, because the gap between Auer and Rast has increased a little bit. So whatever René Rast is able to throw at it, Lucas Auer seemingly, as Timo Glock goes out onto the gravel. I was going to say, seemingly, Auer is able to respond. Well, he just keeps the yellow BMW ahead of Joel Eriksson. He just lost the back end of it. It's the bottom of the hill, isn't it, at Paddock Hill, where just some of the drivers are running wide and just kicking up a little bit of that gravel. Here we can see it again. He takes the curbs on the inside. Then as the car naturally pulls you to the outside, it just pulled a little bit too far, didn't it? And you can see the camber change. It's almost like he's having to dig his way out of there, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had quite a lively day, actually, Timo Glock has, hasn't he? Qualifying, he ended up in the gravel, and he's had a couple of wheels off the track more than once this afternoon. He's lucky that he doesn't end up in the gravel trap again at this rate.
Well, he's, of course, out of the points at the moment, and there you can see Stefan Reinhold then on the pit wall looking on. Daniel Juncadella leading this very, very comfortably indeed by some 5.6 seconds ahead of Augusto Farfus and Lucas Auer. There is Timo Glock then, who has not had the afternoon that he would have liked perhaps here at Brands Hatch. As I'm sorry to say, the sun begins to go in and cloud cover increases and darkens the whole circuit somewhat. Very nearly into the final 5 minutes of the race, plus 1 lap. A race that has really seemingly settled down a bit, and whichever way you look, the cars are all gapped a little between each other, and there are not too many battles going on. I had really hoped that René Rast, who seemed to be chasing down Lucas Auer, but the gap between the two of them has increased to 1.7 seconds. So, of course, Daniel Juncadella is loving the fact that he's managing to increase the margin all the time. 5.9 seconds when last he crossed a sector line. And as he crosses the full timing line now, we'll get the absolute update of where he is relative to Augusto Farfus, who's running in P2. Well, it is that 5.9 second margin, which stays the same as we watch Timo Glock, and then Joel Eriksson, then Nico Müller, the driver of Audi number 51. It was really interesting yesterday here at the circuit with no running on the track at all, and time to catch up with people like Nico Müller and Robin Freins and all the other drivers that over the course of a race weekend sometimes are so very busy you don't get the opportunities to perhaps chat as often as you would like outside of the normal press conferences and such like. But there was such a relaxed atmosphere here at Brands Hatch yesterday that you're able to converse with lots and lots of people. So Juncadella then continuing to lead, 5.9 seconds to the good over Augusto Farfus and Lucas Auer. It's still very good for Mercedes-Benz, of course, who P1 and P3. And there you can see Daniel Juncadella in the number 23, Mercedes-Benz. Breaks the timing beam now, and we await Augusto Farfus to do exactly the same. He screams past our commentary position, and Brian, I think Juncadella just seems to be getting quicker and quicker here.
Yeah, he's been opening up that gap, hasn't he? He's totally got it in control. I think that really the closest battle of the race has been the battle for third between Lucas here and René Rast, but the gap is just keeps opening and closing, and it feels like Lucas has got a complete control on it.
It's almost like Lucas is playing with him, isn't it?
It really feels like that.
They're just seesawing the gap between them, and you're right, it is the closest one. It is for the final podium place. We're on board with a points leader, Gary Paffett, who's just 4/10 now down on Philippe Eng. So there's going to be a last lap charge here on the BMW driver, Philippe Eng, as all of a sudden everything intensifies a bit as we get towards the end of the race. So Paffett now, of course, every point is valuable. He's P6 at the moment. Philippe Eng, the rookie driver for BMW, is P5. So what can Gary Paffett find now? Well, he's got plenty of DRS, but Philippe Eng also has DRS, but he's not close enough to René Rast ahead of him. So he can't use it in defence against Gary Paffett then. So Paffett will do everything he can to move up another place then, and finish P5, which of course is valuable points in the Drivers' Championship, which he is currently leading. The great British driver as they make their way through clearways now. There's the pit-in, as you can see to the left-hand side of your screen, and Paffett really reeling in Philippe Eng. I don't think he's close enough for Paddock Hill on this occasion. I might be wrong as he shows his face to the inside. Eng did a great job in making that BMW as wide as possible. So up towards Druids now. And on the exit of Druids, down towards Graham Hill, will Gary have another go? No, not close enough. Next one, it might be the left-hander going in towards Hawthorne. Let's see again. I don't think he's quite close enough to be able to do so. So this battle that's going on for P5, P1, P2 and P3 are all pretty settled, to be honest, in the final minute of this race. Plus one lap. Here comes Paffett reeling in the BMW now. He's on the end of a fishing line, isn't it? Philippe Eng pedaling as fast as he can in that BMW, and Paffett then really trying to close in on the BMW. It's a question of when, not if, I think, that he has a go. Here comes Daniel Juncadella. It was 6.4 seconds the margin he had over Augusto Farfus last time around. And as Augusto Farfus head towards the timing line now, he's increased it by another 3/10, has Daniel Juncadella. So Paffett then, Philippe Eng is doing a good job in defending here. You know, he's found the hurry-up pedal as well, Brian.
Yeah, he's doing very well. And Gary Paffett, he's got the DRS going down Brabham Straight. It's nice to see that going into Paddock Hill Bend, he hasn't been scared by his incident in qualifying where he went into the tyre barrier. Takes a look up the inside. Surely he's going to get past him on this one with DRS, which of course Philippe Eng doesn't have. It's really, Philippe Eng is making himself as wide as possible. He's got his elbows out. He's using every bit of the track that he needs to.
He's got this lap, the remainder of this lap, and one more. That's all they will have. So Paffett knows that he needs to do it sooner rather than later as he tracks the BMW now. This is the fight that he's going on for P5. Paffett, the gear indicators and the revs indicators on the LEDs you can see at the top of his dashboard. Left foot braking that all the DTM drivers employ here in the DTM cars, as Daniel Juncadella then will head towards the timing line, and he'll cross the timing line with one more lap to do. And Daniel Juncadella does that now, and we do go on to the last lap. Daniel Juncadella will take a win in the DTM here at Brands Hatch if everything stays this way. So Juncadella, Farfus out, René Rast, then it's Philippe Eng just ahead of Gary Paffett for the moment. So P5 and P6 remain the same, but there is virtually nothing, 4/10 between Eng and Paffett, as you can see now. So it's this lap or no lap for Gary Paffett to try and find his way past Philippe Eng, of course, you would expect us to focus on the race leader as well. That's where our shots are at the moment. But we are keeping our eye on the timing screen as well, as Jamie Green puts himself ahead of Robin Frines. That's a change for P11 in the race. Good move there from the British driver, Jamie Green. Will his British mate Gary Paffett be able to find himself away past Philippe Eng? He hasn't been able to do so thus far. Here comes Daniel Juncadella then to round the final turn and to put a win in the book for the Spanish DTM driver. Daniel Juncadella wins at Brands Hatch in race 1. And he wins by a huge margin over the second place driver Augusto Farfus, who crosses the line now ahead of Lucas Auer. Then it should be René Rast. And then will it be Philippe Eng or Gary Paffett? It's going to be Philippe Eng. He's done a brilliant job in defending from the British driver. Philippe Eng does take that P5 place. Gary Paffett is P6. Pascal Wehrlein P7. Then it will be Edo Mortara P8. Marco Wittmann and Mike Rockenfeller round out the points paying positions. Wow, towards the end, Brian, everything came together, didn't it?
It really did. And Jamie Green's move was great because he did that without the aid of DRS, of course, because he'd run out, hadn't he? So that was, I'd like to have seen that, actually. But yeah, it really came alive in the end there. And big credit to Philippe Eng for holding off Gary, because he was so close. He had DRS, but Philippe just put it exactly where he needed to.
There are two things to comment on there. Philippe Eng, a very, very talented driver. Extremely. I've talked about him throughout his career, from his Formula Junior BMW days all the way through. But also, Gary's very wise, isn't he? He knows that he's better off banking the points for P6 than ruining everything and losing, losing it in the quest for P5. Had it been for the race win, I think it might have been a bit different.
Absolutely.
But when you're in a P5, P6 place, I think very sensible driving from both of them.
Yeah, if you're in the gravel trap, you score no points, and Gary Paffett certainly would have known that and thought about that.
So Daniel Juncadella then wins race 11 of the DTM season for 2018, and a very assured win, finishing some 7.8 seconds ahead of Augusto Farfus, and that is by far and away Augusto Farfus' best finish as well, taking that P2 with Lucas Auer on the podium for P3. So Daniel Juncadella then on his slow down lap heading towards the Parc Ferme area. He's going to be one very, very happy Spanish racing driver. On board with René Rast, who just off the podium, of course, finishing in that P4 place. So here we can see in super slow-mo, this was the race-winning overtake, if you like, as Daniel Juncadella gets himself ahead of Lucas Auer. Lucas Auer on cold tyres following that pit stop. He does take a lights to flag victory, but not without losing some places and having to regain those places, because of course his start was dreadful, wasn't it? He lost the back end of the car through too much wheel spin. And for him to be able to recover and take the win, well, you can see how delighted they all are in the box there. And there'll be some celebrations down there in Parc Ferme, that's for sure. Really pleased for Daniel. Done a good job in qualifying, didn't he? And obviously felt completely confident with the pace of the car, and is the final one to come into the Parc Ferme area, because already in there is Lucas Auer and Augusto Farfus, who gives it a rev in delight and spits the flame out of the exhaust. But here comes our race winner then. Daniel Juncadella in car number 23, his first race win in the DTM. As you can see, his first podium earlier this year, and now takes his first win. So Augusto Farfus out of the car, Lucas Auer on his way out now, and here comes Daniel Juncadella, our race winner. He reverses out. Did you notice that? It was bottom first.
Yeah, very elegant.
So he... Oh, what fantastic celebrations from Daniel Juncadella. Oh, and of course, Abel Cruz, a Spanish journalist, is the first there to congratulate Danny Juncadella. That's great.
Yeah, aside from that, the slightly dodgy start, Daniel Juncadella has not put a foot wrong today, has he? Qualifies on pole and gets back in the front and just controls the race from the front.
That's the only thing I would take issue with. His start was, now whether that was his fault or not, it's another matter, but he didn't get a. He did. Apart from that, he's done a faultless job, and he looked so assured out there in the final stages of that race. He's just banking lap after lap after lap, quicker than anybody else. You're absolutely right. Consistency, absolutely 10 out of 10. So great job done, Augusto Farfus. We should really celebrate the fact that he's taken that P2 because he hasn't had the rub of the green a lot of times. And there is Lucas Au then who has taken that P3 place. So Daniel Juncadella, Augusto Farfus and Lucas Au, the drivers we'll be seeing up there on the podium. Congratulated. And he's a very, very happy man. And I'll be talking to the top 3 a little bit later on today. And there he removes the earphones and puts everything safely into the crash helmet. And there, Augusto is such a family man. And look, being congratulated by his family. And Danny Juncadella being congratulated as well. So the drivers will be hustled off. And you can see the delight here at Brands Hatch for the top 3. There he is, Augusto. For some reason, Lucas Au seems to have disappeared. Where is he? There he is. So they'll all pose together for the photograph here. The top 3. Daniel Juncadella in the middle. To the left-hand side is Augusto Farfus. To the right-hand side, it's Lucas Au. So big thumbs up from all of them. So brilliant stuff indeed. And this was really interesting, Brian.
I don't actually know what that is, what that represents.
No, neither. I didn't want to show my ignorance, but you've done that for me now. Thank you.
I'm sure it's something that's very trendy.
Yes, the old man's of the commentary box.
Yes.
We don't know.
Not a clue.
Right, Lucas Au, the young Austrian. Well done to him. He takes P3.
Yes, Lucas Au did a fantastic job. Congratulations to a 3rd place. You were trying to push so hard, but I guess the pace just wasn't enough to go all the way to P2. But you happy with the P3?
I think it was a positive day because I didn't know the track comparison to the other 2 guys. So I was happy with that. But I was leading the race, and at the end I finished 3rd. So mixed feelings, to be honest, if I'm honest.
And what does it feel like here on the GP track? How do you like it?
Yeah, amazing. I'm shaking. It's really difficult. Not hitting the wall is so difficult, so I'm happy.
Thank you so much, Lucas, and back to you.
He's a proper racing driver, isn't he? You know, I was leading the race, but I haven't won the race. It's always going to be disappointing, isn't it? You know, and Daniel Juncadella, well, he's one that's certainly not going to be disappointed, having taken the win from Augusto Farfus taking P2, and of course Lucas Au, who we have just heard from. Marco Wittmann, he had a quiet day by his standards, didn't he? Finishing in P9. And there, at last, the Loic Duval car, which caused that slow zone earlier on, is recovered. And here, the driver standings now following that race. Well, Gary Paffett banked points, you see, for that P6 finish. So he's on 156 now. Paul Di Resta is on 121. Di Resta, of course, didn't bank any points. Lucas Au did and finds himself P3 now. Vaulted Timo Glock, who was P3. So Lucas Au's on 106. Edo on 101. Timo Glock on 101 as well. Still a lot of racing to come, though, here in the DTM, where we have, of course, another race tomorrow. And because Daniel Juncadella and Augusto Farfus and Lucas Au will be on the podium today, I'd be very surprised if it will be the same tomorrow. We'll see. René Rast and Jamie Green are discussing how the race went for them, as Rast finished P4, Jamie Green finished in P11. They walked down the pit lane, having just been weighed. And let's go back down to the pit lane now with Verena.
And now I'm here with a very, very happy man, Daniel Juncadella. Congratulations from pole to victory, and it's your first victory in DTM, so can I please see a huge smile?
Yeah, finally. I mean, after Norris Ring getting my first pole, I was I was hoping to win a race. Then I had a really bad weekend in Zandvoort, so I lost a bit of, my emotions were a bit down after that weekend, and I was really confident about this weekend. I knew the track very well, and I knew we would have a strong car, so I think the day was perfect today for me. And it's great after a summer break where I was spending a lot of time with family, friends. I can see that it pays off, to be enjoying at home and arrive here confident, happy, and that worked very well for me today.
Especially because just a few weeks before the season happened, you had a bad accident and you broke something. So, now winning the DTM must be a dream come true.
It is, because like you say, when I had the accident, I thought the season was over. I thought I was not going to be able to race. So it's very special, to be here and winning races. And it's just the beginning of the second half of the season, so I want to be confident for more wins like this one. Hopefully tomorrow we can have another chance at it.
All right, off you go onto the podium. Enjoy the moment. Thank you very much, Daniel, and back to you.
Cheers. Daniel Juncadella. Then, of course, it was in a mountain bike accident where he sustained that injury, and his recovery was really, really quick, and I think that surprised himself as he celebrates with his team before heading off up to the podium. So Juncadella, Farfus and Auer, the drivers we're going to see up there on the podium, of course. And as he says, he would like to be able to replicate what he's been able to achieve today. An interesting point he made there, Brian, as we see Augusto Farfus make his way towards the podium. An interesting point there is the rest and relaxation over the little summer break has helped him.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's all about being in shape, isn't it?
Talking of which, being in shape, rest and relaxation. How poetic.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, quite. So there, we can see the podium being ready then. And one Mr. Damon Hill up there who's going to be assisting with the podium presentations. And here is our race winner, Daniel Juncadella, then heading out towards the podium assembly area first of all, where they'll don the baseball caps and take on some fluid ahead of appearing out there on the podium. There you go, baseball cap goes on, takes a swig of water, I wasn't wrong. Augusto Farfus then P2, and you don't very often see the Brazilian driver not smiling, even though he's had a tough season. He's had a tough couple of seasons, if truth be told. At last he's seeing some results for his sterling efforts. He's a very, very good racing driver, but what it does, it reinforces when you get drivers like Augusto Farfus and the talent that is Augusto Farfus, how difficult these DTM cars are to drive and drive well. Uli Fritz from Mercedes-Benz, I think in conversation there with Gerhard Berger. And Uli Fritz, of course, team principal of the HWA team for Mercedes-Benz, will be pretty happy with the way it's gone so far this weekend, because his manufacturer's cars are P1 and P3. Is out onto the podium. There comes Daniel Juncadella, and for the first time in his DTM career he goes to the top step of the podium. Up next we see Augusto Farfus. And then it's going to be Lucas Auer that will head towards the podium. So the Austrian then, perhaps just a tad disappointed. He led the race and felt he should have won it, but he concedes the fact that Juncadella and Farfus have more experience at Brands Hatch, and that's what he thinks done for him. And let's hear the national anthem for Daniel Juncadella, which is about to play out. So baseball caps are removed. And here comes the Spanish national anthem. So the radio edit version of the national anthem plays out then. And the applause around the Brands Hatch circuit then as the podium presentations are about to get underway. And Mr. Damon Hill, the world champion in Formula One from 1996, makes that first DTM trophy presentation for winning to Daniel Juncadella. That's one he'll remember for a little while here at Brands Hatch, that's for sure. Manfred Sandbichler, who is the Motorsport Director for Hankook, making the trophy presentation to the Mercedes-Benz HWA team. Another guy that I'll be talking to shortly, Mr. John McGuinness, 23-time Isle of Man TT winner, makes the trophy presentation to Augusto Farfus for BMW. And that just leaves the young Austrian Lucas Auer, of course, who's on step number 3 of the podium, awaiting his trophy, to be presented now by Mrs. Carol Griffiths, a winner of DTM Fan Experience. What an honour that is to present a trophy up there on the podium in DTM race weekend. The drivers will all get together for the photographs, of course, and then it will be time for the champagne to be sprayed, really rather liberally, I suspect, by Daniel Juncadella, and perhaps with less gusto from Lucas Auer. But there, Mr. Damon Hill making that trophy presentation, and Daniel Juncadella is loving that one. Add to what is quite an extensive collection of Daniel Juncadella. I'll tell you what, the team got there before the drivers, really, in terms of the champagne. Juncadella is going to remember that for a long time. As you can see, Lucas Auer, you could sense it, couldn't you? He's a real racer, and he was disappointed to only have taken P3, Brian.
Yeah, that's the sign of a true racing driver, isn't it? He said, I was in the lead once, and but I didn't win it. That to him is a bad afternoon's work. For me, 3rd place, I'd take it.
Yep. I think you're absolutely right. But yes, that's what makes the difference. Oh dear. Might need some new clothing now. Great stuff. Great celebrations on the podium, and of course not long to wait before more DTM race action, because she really did get it, didn't she? My goodness me, that was meant to the point where I couldn't see, and Daniel Juncadella receiving it as well. Oh, fantastic. Great podium celebrations, as I was saying. Not long to wait. Here comes the bottle drop. Not long to wait for more DTM race action, because, of course, we have another race to come in tomorrow's program here at Brands Hatch. So, Juncadella, Farfus, Auer on the podium for this race. Will it be the same for tomorrow? I really rather suspect not, but we don't know. We think weather may play a part in tomorrow. Verena is down there on the podium.
And I'm here with Augusto Farfus. Congratulations, a fantastic race for you. I think coming from P5 to P2, it's got to feel really good to be on 2nd place. And I saw you kissing the family, so they're here to support you too. Is it a good feeling?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they didn't come for so long, and I made my kids proud. It was a good week. We started the day already pretty competitive. The car felt good, so I take this P2 with a lot of joy, thanks to the team. Tomorrow we have another one.
All right, thank you so much, Augusto. So that's it from Brands Hatch for today. We're looking forward to tomorrow. Even though it was sunny today, tomorrow might be a different story. So it's going to be interesting. We hope to see you then as well. And now here are the highlights of Brands Hatch for the day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.